Right, first up, a look at the Asian markets. They're lower in trade. They've declined despite a strong handover coming in from Wall Street, and this as concerns over global growth linger. So if you take a look at the frontline indices out there, the Nikkei lower by about 0.75%. The Korean markets also lower by about a fifth of a percent. Majority of the cuts on Korea is courtesy Samsung Electronics, which is lower by about 2.5% as we speak. We're seeing mild declines in Straits, 0.25% shaved off the Taiwanese index as well. And they're sitting on a huge rally, close to around 120 points in yesterday's trading session. The SGX Nifty indicates maybe some of that could give back just at the open, about a 30-point downtick.
Let's talk about the US markets then. On Wall Street, stocks closed higher, led by gains in energy and financial sector. Major indices ended off the day's high, tepid housing and considering uncertainties over global growth. And Jones rose around 140 points, over 0.5% each. Meanwhile, the 10-year Treasury yield edged higher, and CNBC's Eric Shemi gets us a wrap of all the action on Wall Street.
U.S. stocks finishing the day in positive territory. The Dow up 140 points, while the S&P higher by 20 and the Nasdaq up 50. OxyContin maker Purdue Pharma and its owner family $170 million to the state of Oklahoma to settle a lawsuit accusing the drug maker of misleading the dangers of the drug. As part of the agreement, Purdue will contribute more than $102 million to fund the creation of a National Center for Addiction Studies. Purdue is at the center of the opioid crisis in America and faces thousands of lawsuits that the company says corrupt the drug maker. Meanwhile, Uber announcing a $3.1 billion deal to buy Middle East rival Careem. The deal comes just ahead of Uber's expected IPO and would this deal yet if it gets approval. And shares of Viacom rising nearly 8%. Are expected to talk to the company's board in the coming weeks, and an offer to Viacom could follow. That's the action from the U.S. market. Back to you in Mumbai.
All right, on that, hear out Alliance Chief Economic Advisor on how the yield curve inversion does and his views on the Fed's rate.
I understand why people worried about it. When something happens for the first time since people pay attention, and that's what happened on Friday when you got the inversion.
Yes.
However, when you look at the economy on the one hand, and also when determinants of the yield curve shape and move, this is signals some very peculiar technicals in the market that have to do with what's happening in the Fed. This economy, unless it gets thick, is on its way to 2.5 this year. Continue to have average monthly wage job creation well above what you would expect. You're having real wage growth and people back into the labor market. Business investment is picking up. That's good news for this year and next year. And yes, the effects of the tax cuts are eroding, but again, government spending is increasing. So put it all together, this has momentum for this year. There's no way you're going to get a recession. We are in a divergent growth scenario. The US, others, Europe will be lucky to get 1% growth. And therefore, the global growth outlook is uncertain now. And people started really worrying about growth in the US. We swung too much in one direction. When the Fed guided towards 4 rate hikes and delivered 4 rate hikes, I always felt 3 and stop and watch. And now we've swung the other way. I wouldn't give up policy optionality so early in the year. I just wouldn't do it. There's lots of uncertainty. It's not clear how this divergent growth is going to play out. It's not clear how the Fed will reconcile a stronger U.S. economy that says hike versus a weaker economy. And I certainly wouldn't give up the optionality and on the balance sheet so early in the year.
All right, so that was Mohammad Al-Arian. With that, we move across the Atlantic. In Europe, the markets ended in positive territory as the UK Parliament wrested control of the Brexit away from the government. An individual stock that was in focus, the German-listed Wirecard, that stock gained about 26% as the company was rid of financial discrepancies. Remember, earlier in the past, the stock has been fairly volatile on account of allegations with regards to its Singapore employees bumping up profits or some sort of financial irregularities out there. So a breather coming in for them, and that stock moving about 26% higher. That was as far as the European markets are concerned. If you take a look at the emerging market space, the Brazilian index, which has been a fair amount of an outperformer in just the last 1 year, also saw a big gain, close to around 1.76% gains coming in on the Brazilian index itself. But let's focus back to Europe, FTSE, and Brexit, because it's a big day ahead in the Brexit negotiations. And this after the Parliament took control of the Brexit process from Prime Minister Theresa May. MPs are expected now to submit their ideas to the Speaker on various Brexit alternatives, who will then decide what is voted upon.
Let's talk about the currency space then. The dollar edges up as US bond yields rebound while the Japanese yen slips versus the greenback.
In the world of commodities, crude oil prices hold on to gains as Russia signals its commitment to output cuts. Also, OPEC supply cuts and expectations of lower US inventories outweighed concerns about weaker demand due to an economic slowdown.
All right, on that note, let's take a quick break. Up next, we'll get you all the news that you need to know for trade this morning.